Shh. Shh. Shh.
The rain started just after sunset with a kind of thunderstorm that rattles picture frames and hums through your bones. Helen Parker had lived in the neighborhood for nearly a decade. Quiet streets, trimmed lawns, nosy neighbors, the kind of place where nothing truly bad ever happened. But that night, the thunder didn't sound right. It wasn't rumbling from the sky. It felt closer. Like it was calling from the end of her street. The lights flickered once, twice, then went out completely. The house exhaled into silence. Only the rain filled the space, hard and endless, drumming against the roof like fingers tapping. Helen stood by the window, clutching her phone. No signal. She wasn't afraid of storms. Not really. She'd lived through dozens of them. But this one felt different, charged, raw, alive. Outside, the wind bent the trees in half. Streetlights popped one after another until only darkness stretched across the cul-de-sac. And then, through the rain, she thought she saw movement, someone walking down the road. No umbrella. No flashlight. Just a dark shape moving slowly, almost dragging one leg. Thunder cracked again, deafening, splitting the air like glass. And then she heard it. A voice. Faint, but clear. Her name. Helen. It rolled through the thunder, buried deep in the sound but unmistakable. She froze. Maybe she imagined it. She turned on her flashlight, scanning the backyard. Nothing. But when the next thunder rolled, the voice came again, louder this time, more certain. Helen. Her husband used to call her name like that, deep, drawn out, gentle. Except he'd been gone for 3 years now. At 9:42 p.m., there came a knock. 3 soft taps. Helen's heart stuttered. She waited, flashlight beam trembling. No one should be out there, not in this weather. She moved toward the peephole. Nothing. Only darkness. Then another knock. This time slower, like whoever was outside was waiting for her to listen. She whispered, "Who's there?" And from the other side, a voice, muffled, barely human, answered. "It's me, let me in." It was her husband's voice. Logic fought with terror. It couldn't be him. She'd buried him. She'd seen him lowered into the ground herself. She backed away from the door, breathing hard. If she could get the power back, call someone, it would be fine. She grabbed a flashlight and headed for the basement. The stairs creaked beneath her. Each step echoed too long, as if the house itself were hollow. When she reached the bottom, the breaker box door was hanging open. Every switch flipped down. She reached to reset them, then froze. In the reflection of the metallic box, she saw a figure standing behind her. It wasn't just any figure. It looked exactly like her. Same hair. Same housecoat. Same shaking hands gripping a flashlight. Except her reflection wasn't moving the same way. When she turned to look, the space behind her was empty. But when she looked back into the metal, the reflection smiled. Then, behind that reflection, in the shadow, another figure appeared, a man's outline, taller, darker. And for a moment, the thunder outside stopped. In that silence, Helen heard whispering, layers of voices speaking from nowhere and everywhere. The sound pressed against her skull like pressure underwater. She stumbled back, hit the stairs, and fled upstairs, slamming the basement door behind her. When she reached the living room, something had changed. The rain wasn't falling anymore. The air was still, like a painting. Through the window, the neighborhood looked frozen, every house dark, every car still. She pressed her face to the glass. Then she noticed, there were people standing in the street. Dozens of them. All facing her house. all perfectly still, soaked to the bone, eyes white and glowing faintly in the dark. And above them, lightning forked silently across the clouds, but there was no thunder. Only the hum of something electric, wrong, and watching. Her phone buzzed suddenly, a single vibration. No signal, no bars, no notification. One new voicemail. She pressed play. Her husband's voice came through, soft and broken. "Helen, it's me. I don't have much time. They come with the storm. Don't answer the door. Don't say your name when you hear it. That's how they find you." The message ended with static. Then, faintly through the static, the same voice whispering again, this time not from her phone. "Helen." She dropped the phone. The thunder came back, but this time, it didn't roll from above. It rose from the ground. The walls shook. Glass rattled. And with each flash of lightning, one of the figures outside vanished, like being erased from reality. Until only one was left. The shape at the end of the driveway. Tall. Still. Familiar. Her husband. Or something that wore his shape. He began walking toward the house. Slowly. Each step made the lights in the distance flicker like dying stars. She backed away from the window, whispering to herself. "It's not him. It's not him." But the thing outside reached the door, placed its hand flat against the glass, and whispered through the storm. "You don't have to be alone anymore." And for a moment, one terrible moment, she believed him. Because she had been alone for so long. The thunder built again, louder, layered with voices, all calling her name. She screamed, clapped her hands over her ears, and ran to the kitchen. The sound followed her. "Helen, Helen, Helen." The back door burst open, wind howling inside. Rain sprayed across the floor, and in the wind she saw movement, dozens of faces, twisted and half-seen, flickering like lightning. Every time she blinked, one came closer. She grabbed a knife, her body shaking uncontrollably. "Stay away," she screamed. But the air seemed to breathe in response. And from the dark doorway came that voice again, warm, pleading, human. "Helen, please. You can come back." She stumbled backward, slipped on the wet tile, and hit the floor. Her flashlight spun, its beam catching the reflection on the window, hundreds of faces staring back, all her own. Then, one final flash of lightning. White. Blinding. When the light faded, she was alone again. The rain had stopped. The neighborhood was still. The power hummed back to life, steady and warm. Helen sat on the floor, soaked, trembling, breathing hard. Everything looked normal again. Except. On the kitchen window, where the rain had streaked down the glass, something was written in the condensation. "Thank you for letting us in." By dawn, the storm had passed. Neighbors came outside, chatting, clearing debris. Everyone seemed fine. No one mentioned the voices, the figures, the lights. When Helen looked across the street, she realized something. The house opposite hers, where the Collins family lived, was gone. Not destroyed. Just, gone. As if it had never existed. The lawn stretched smooth and untouched where it once stood. And when she turned back toward her own reflection in the window, her reflection didn't move. Some storms pass. Others stay inside you. And when thunder calls your name, you better hope it's not answering back. It started as a low hum. Faint, almost musical, like a fridge running somewhere in the walls. James noticed it the night the storm rolled in. Thunder cracked in the distance, rain slid down the windows, and the house began to sing. At first, he thought it was the pipes. Old plumbing, maybe the boiler. But the sound had rhythm, slow, deep, and deliberate. It was humming back to the thunder. James lived on the edge of a quiet suburban street. mostly retired couples, mailbox gossip. But tonight, every house was dark. No porch lights, no flicker of TVs, no cars passing. The storm had pushed everyone inside. He stood by his window, looking at the reflection of his living room in the glass. Behind his own reflection, for just a heartbeat, he thought he saw someone else standing there. A faint silhouette. When he turned around, nothing. Just the empty couch and the sound of rain. Then the hum started again, louder. The hum seemed to come from below. James hated basements. His late wife, Clara, always called it the heartbeat of the house. She said she could hear it breathe when it rained. Now, standing at the top of the stairs, flashlight in hand, he heard it too, a low, steady pulse, like the storm had synced with something alive beneath his home. Each flash of lightning made the hum vibrate through the floorboards. He could feel it in his chest. Still, he went down. The light flickered as he reached the bottom. Moist air clung to the walls. The sound was louder here, a constant, chest-deep vibration that made the shelves rattle. He traced it to the far wall where the old fuse box sat. Something glowed behind it. A faint blue shimmer leaking from the cracks. Probably a wire short, he muttered, trying to steady his voice. He reached out to touch the metal panel, and the hum stopped. Completely. The silence was so sharp it made his ears ring. Then, from right behind him, a voice whispered softly. "You came back." James spun around, flashlight trembling. There was nobody there. But something caught his eye, movement reflected in the chrome pipes running along the wall. A face. Pale. Blurry. But definitely there. Clara's face. Except her eyes were open wider than they ever had been in life, and her mouth moved soundlessly. Then, the hum started again, only this time, it came from her reflection. He stumbled backward, tripping over a toolbox. When he looked again, the pipes were just pipes. James fled back upstairs and locked the basement door. The lights flickered on again, steady this time. The house looked normal. But when he turned on the TV for noise, every channel was static. No cable. No sound. Just white noise. And underneath that static, the hum again. He muted it instantly. The hum didn't stop. A sudden knock broke the tension. 3 dull thuds against the front door. He checked the peephole. It was his neighbor, Mrs. Elkins, wrapped in a raincoat. She looked pale and terrified. He opened the door. "Are you okay?" he asked. Her eyes darted past him, into the house. "You need to leave," she said. "You shouldn't stay here when it rains." "What are you talking about?" Her voice cracked. "It's not your house anymore, James. They found a way in." Before he could respond, thunder exploded, and she vanished. Not ran. Not stepped back. Vanished. The rain outside froze mid-air, every droplet hanging still. And the hum grew louder. He slammed the door shut. The lights dimmed to a faint blue glow, pulsing with the hum. The walls began to vibrate gently, as if the house were breathing. James shouted, "What do you want from me?" No answer, only the hum shifting tone, almost forming words. He listened closer, heart racing. It wasn't just noise anymore. It was voices. Hundreds of them. He could make out his own name. Over and over. James. 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 And mixed within, Clara's voice. "You shouldn't have stayed." The kitchen faucet turned on by itself. Thick, dark water poured out, not mud, not oil, something else. It shimmered faintly under the light. The smell hit him next, metallic, sharp, like wet coins. He stepped closer and saw movement beneath the surface, faces, distorted and rippling, like they were trapped inside the water. He backed away, and as he did, the faucet turned off. The hum stopped. And a voice whispered behind him, almost touching his ear. "It only stops when you listen." He turned slowly. The hallway leading to the living room was now darker than before. At the end of it, the air shimmered faintly, like heat haze. And in the middle of that shimmer stood Clara. Her body was faint, like fog. Her head tilted slightly. Her mouth moved silently, but the hum matched her lips. He took one step toward her. "Clara." The hum grew painful. The walls shook. Lightning flashed outside, and for a moment, he saw the entire neighborhood through the window, every house glowing faint blue, like they were breathing together. Then everything went dark again. He couldn't tell how long he stood there. The air felt heavy, thick with static. Then, whispering. Dozens of voices layering over each other. They weren't coming from the walls. They were coming from inside his own head. He clutched his ears, but the sound only got louder, overlapping tones, like 1,000 people whispering underwater. He screamed for it to stop. And suddenly, silence. When he looked up, Clara was gone. Then came another sound, this time, not a hum. A knock. From under the floor. 3 dull thuds. Then again. Then, humming again, lower this time, like something was crawling up from beneath. He ran to the basement door, pressed his ear against it. The hum pulsed once, hard enough to shake the knob. And then, from the other side. "It's warm down here, James. You'll be safe." He staggered back, shaking his head. That voice. That was Clara's. The storm outside had grown quieter now, but the hum inside was unbearable, vibrating through the air like static and heartbeat combined. He couldn't take it anymore. He had to know. Had to see. He grabbed his flashlight and slowly opened the basement door. The stairs glowed faint blue, like the light was leaking from below. He descended, step by step. Halfway down, his flashlight went out. But he didn't need it anymore, the light was coming from inside the walls. And then he saw it. The fuse box was gone. In its place was a gaping hole, deep and pulsing, like an open wound in the concrete. And from within that hole, Clara's face appeared again, pale, calm, and smiling. She whispered. "I told you it breathes." He fell to his knees, unable to move. The hum filled his body, pressing against his ribs, making his vision blur. She reached out a hand from the light, translucent, trembling. "Come home, James." He reached out too, tears in his eyes. Their fingers almost touched. Then lightning struck outside. The sound cracked through the air like a scream. For a single second, he saw everything, the walls pulsing like lungs, the faces of hundreds of people trapped inside them, eyes wide and mouths open in silent hum. And then, darkness. When the neighbors came by the next morning, the storm had passed. James's house was perfectly still. The power was back. Everything seemed fine. Except, the front door was wide open, and water had pooled across the floor, black and glistening. They never found James. But sometimes, when it rains in that neighborhood, you can still hear it. The faint hum beneath the thunder, singing softly from the drains and walls. Some people say it's the pipes. Others say the house remembers every name it's ever taken. If you hear your house humming when it rains, don't hum along. It's not lonely. It's listening.